Back at it again, baby, and we have another one from the brother Thomas Sowell. Let's dive in.
Housing. Economic facts and fallacies. Quote, the biggest economic fallacy about housing is that affordable housing requires government intervention. Close quote. Now, Tom, I have to remonstrate with you. No poor person would be able to live on the island of Manhattan or in the city of San Francisco if there weren't rent control or subsidized low-income housing that these cities forced builders to set aside when they built their high-rises for rich people. Isn't that manifestly true?
No, it's not even remotely true.
All right, explain. Explain.
Well, first,
Those are expensive cities. I mean, that's just well known. So I didn't even know there was affordable housing in San Francisco. Like that's a huge, major city. So yeah, do you guys think there should be affordable housing in big cities like that? My initial response to that would be no. I mean, those are big, major cities. So of course everything's going to be extremely expensive and overpriced, But yeah, let me know. Talk to me.
first history, there were more people, I believe, living in Manhattan prior to the rise of rent control and prior to the rise of government housing projects. My gosh, at one time, the Lower East Side of New York was the most tightly packed place in the world. New York and San Francisco have very long rent control laws, old ones and severe ones. And yet when you look at the cities with the highest rents in the country of any major cities, they are number one, New York, and number two, San Francisco.
So what's going on?
He's got a point.
Why does the political system produce a perverse outcome, which is then supported in the press? Try to mention a repeal of rent control, and the New York Times will go after you immediately.
Absolutely.
Hold on. What did that headline say? I wanted to catch that headline. I'm sorry. Youngest separated kids sent to Texas tender age shelters. Huh? What?
Absolutely. What happens in rent control around the world, really, because it's been tried so many times, is that people, if the rent control is severe, the people either reduce the amount of housing they build or they stop building housing altogether. Mm-hmm. And so what happens, the political authorities are then confronted with a situation. Do you want to have a situation where there's no new housing built and the old housing is wearing out, usually faster under rent control because the landlords don't have to keep it up as much. And so they step in and they'll have some kind of modification so that, well, let's say we're trying to protect the poor, so we won't regulate luxury housing. Of course, luxury housing and ordinary housing use much of the same labor, the same materials. And so therefore, all the materials that would otherwise have gone into making ordinary housing goes into building luxury housing.
Economic facts.
That makes sense. And listen, like I said, my initial response was that there shouldn't be any affordable housing in big cities like those for obvious reasons. I mean, if you want to play with the big fishes, you got to have the big money, you got to pay to play. But y'all let me know. Maybe you'll feel different and have some different statistics or facts that I'm not aware of. Talk to me.
Housing goes into building luxury housing.
Economic facts and fallacies once again. If we go back to the beginning of the 20th century, before government intervention became pervasive in housing markets, we find, and this is to me one of the most arresting assertions in the book, we find people paying a smaller percentage of their expenditures for housing than at the end of the 20th century. In 1901, housing costs took 23% of the average American family's spending. By 2003, it took 33% of a far larger amount of spending. What's going on?
What's going on is that they're restricting the amount of housing that can be built. And obviously, if you restrict the supply while the demand is growing, the prices will go up through the roof.
Cui bono? Who benefits from this arrangement?
Politicians, most of all.
How?
Because they get the reputation of being for the poor and the downtrodden, and that they're setting aside affordable housing units, usually in some token amounts. They are preventing the evil landlords from raising the rent by rent control, and if they are able to keep the public paranoid that if they take off the rent control, it'll be just sky-high prices, and so they gain by that. Both the landlords and the tenants lose. They lose in different ways and to different extents. The tenants lose because they can't find a place to stay. The landlords lose because they don't make the profit they would have made otherwise. The builders lose because there's no demand for apartment buildings if nobody can make a profit on it.
All right. Economic facts and fallacies once again. Quote, where builders are allowed to construct.
Speaking from a place of facts, I love it. And he broke it down. And I love the fact that he actually like broke it down, like how each person benefits and how each person loses, and why, all of that happens. So, man, gotta love the brother Thomas Sowell. Gotta love him. Gotta love him. I would love to do an interview with him. If anybody knows how I could get in contact with Thomas, please let me know. I would love to interview Thomas. I think that would be a really interesting and great interview. Listening to him these past, I don't know, what's it been, like a month now, has been really, really eye-opening. A lot of new knowledge, a lot of things that I had no clue about. I mean, not even, it wasn't even on my radar, some of this stuff. Like how affordable housing is actually a negative, it just wasn't something that I ever really thought of. And now that I'm hearing Thomas speak about it and he's bringing the facts with it, it's eye-opening how a lot of this stuff that the government sets up for us or for individuals is actually a negative in actuality. When you really break it down and you really take a closer look at it, it's actually not as positive as you would think. Interesting how some of this stuff has been working, and listening to Thomas Sowell is always amazing. So, yeah, let me know if you have a way to contact him or know of his Instagram or Twitter or any social media sites he may have or an email address or something. Let me know, please.
On it. Demand for apartment buildings if nobody can make a profit on it.
All right. Economic facts and fallacies once again. Quote, where builders are allowed to construct homes and apartments without severe government restrictions, even growing populations and rising incomes do not cause housing prices to shoot up because the supply of newly constructed housing keeps up with the growing demand, as in Houston. Now, would you please contrast Houston with our own coastal California?
Oh, my goodness. There couldn't be a greater
contrast. An easy one.
Yes, that's an easy one. Houston doesn't even have zoning laws. But whereas to build anything in coastal California.
Hold on, what'd that say? Average.
Houston doesn't even have zoning
Average apartment rent cost in Houston, $1,100.
laws. But whereas to build anything in coastal California is just an ordeal. I mean, you have to not only you have to go through all kinds of planning commissions. I've had the misfortune of
average rent in LA is
you have to not only
$2,400. From $1,100 to $2,400. That's for an apartment. You don't even own that. That money is going in a toilet. Literally. You won't see a penny of that in return. That's not to purchase a home. That is crazy.
You have to go through all kinds of planning commissions. I've had the misfortune of sitting in on 2 planning commission meetings. I don't know what it did for my blood pressure watching these people. The discouragement is huge. So someone estimated, for example, a real estate company, that a house that would cost $155,000 in Houston would cost $1 million in San Francisco.
Right.
155 in Houston and $1 million in San. Whoa. Yeah, that's just out of hand. That's just out of hand. And I've recently heard and seen people speaking about how they are moving out of California. I don't know what the ratio, what the current statistics are as far as, the population growth in California. But from the stuff that I've heard, I would assume that if it's not negative, like more people are moving out than coming in, or even being born in California, I would assume that it's at least pretty close to like even. If anything else. But you guys can let me know if you've read more into that, if you've heard more about it than I have. Like I said, it's just been here and there, people talking about, yeah, I'm moving away from California, moving away. Oh yeah, my family moved away from California. Those types of situations. And just from the number of times that I've heard, it's just like, whoa, yeah, things are kind of seem kind of bad in California. Interesting facts to learn about. Always good to check a video out from the brother Thomas Sowell. But as always, y'all let me know what you thought about it in the comment section below. Have you studied any of this stuff previously, read anything about it, know more about it, let me know in the comment section, because this is crazy. This is ridiculous, and it should be put out there more into the mainstream, because I feel like a lot of people don't really know about this, how affordable housing is actually a negative. But anyway, like, share, comment, hit that subscribe button if you're new. Peace and love. I'm out.